Question number 9, Iain Lees-Galloway.
The question is to the Minister of Immigration. Has he seen any reports that 60% of New Zealanders think the government should let in fewer immigrants? If so, why does he think New Zealanders are becoming concerned about immigration?
The Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Mr. Speaker, yes, I have seen those reports. There could be many reasons why, ranging from genuine concern for New Zealanders' access to the job market, confusion between migration and immigration, and the fact that current positive migration is being driven predominantly by New Zealanders' movements, sensationalised reporting that neglects the fact that the overwhelming majority of migrants are on temporary visas and will return home, as well as some who are being influenced by scaremongering from political parties over things like Chinese-sounding surnames.
Oh, Iain.
Supplementary question, Iain Lees-Galloway.
Calm yourself. Why did he dismiss the concerns raised by MB and Treasury that, quote, we have seen increasing numbers of migrants working in lower skilled occupations with lower pay?
The Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Mr. Speaker, on the contrary, those concerns were not dismissed and are constantly addressed by the continuous nipping and tucking of immigration policy to ensure that it is fit for purpose. And the best example of that, I would suggest, is the 56 occupations that have been removed from skill shortage lists since 2013, whereas only 5 have been added on. I think that reflects a very important issue.
Supplementary question, Iain Lees-Galloway.
Why did the government approve work visas for 2,700 sales workers last year when there are 23,000 unemployed sales workers already right here in New Zealand?
Good question.
The Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's difficult for me to say exactly the reasons, but I would suggest that there were 2 main reasons. One was that those work visas were not subject to a labour market test if, for example, they were the partners of people who were already here. They may have also been in areas where there is chronic short supply of labour, notwithstanding the job seekers that Mr. Lees-Galloway suggests. I don't know if the number is 23,000, given that overall job seeker numbers at the moment are hovering around 50. I would hazard a guess that there weren't half of them who were looking for sales rep jobs. But the point is it's important to look through the numbers and make sure that the reasons for those work visas being granted are understood.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Iain Lees-Galloway.
Why did the government approve work visas for 6,500 labourers last year when there are 23,000 unemployed labourers right here in New Zealand ready to work?
Okay.
The Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
So we now have 23,000 unemployed labourers and 23,000 unemployed sales workers. That represents just about 100% of job seeker support numbers right now. I would suggest those numbers be viewed with a great deal of caution. But the simple answer to the question is that there wasn't a New Zealander available to do the job in the place where the work was. And I note further, Mr. Speaker, that we now have moved a long way away from the where are the jobs call now, because the jobs are definitely being made by a growing economy in this country.
Order. Supplementary question, Iain Lees-Galloway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Why is the government issuing work visas to fill the jobs that tens of thousands of unemployed Kiwis want? A policy that leaves new migrants vulnerable and leads to fewer jobs with lower wages for Kiwis.
The Honourable Michael Woodhouse.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm very glad to note that the Labour Party is now acknowledging that there are jobs for every single New Zealander who wants them in this growing economy. But it would be naive to think that there weren't barriers to employment for some of those New Zealanders. The Minister of Tertiary Education, Skills and Employment, the Minister of Social Development and I are working extremely hard to remove those barriers, whether they are geography, training, skills, recreational drug and alcohol use that needs to be addressed before they are ready for work. We are working hard to make sure every young New Zealander is fit for work.
Supplementary question, Ron Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, is the Minister surprised that he has so many anti-immigration questions from Labor these days, given that previous Labor leaders have so viciously attacked New Zealand First and Winston Peters on the very same topic.
And as far... Order. 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 No, I'll hear from Chris Hipkins.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister is not responsible for questions that the opposition asks.
Yeah, no, I can't see there's any ministerial responsibility anyway. We're moving on. Further supplementaries? Supplementary question, Iain Lees-Galloway.
Is by reports from political parties who have formed a coalition recently. When we have questions such as this, and he's asked to answer questions such as this, and then the leader of the Green Party, James Shaw, goes on radio and says, we're all for...
Order. Order. No ministerial responsibility whatsoever. Order. Order. I hope it's a point of order, but I hope it's not in any way contesting a decision I've just made.
No, I just need your assurance, Mr. Speaker, that when ministers are asked if they've read reports on issues that affect their portfolio, that going forward, such questions will stand as legitimate.
I'll hear from the Honourable Jerry Parliament.
Mr. Speaker, there's absolutely no way that a scrap between Labor, the Greens and New Zealand First affects the minister's portfolio.
I was hoping that I might get something useful from Mr. Brownlee, and I guess in some ways I have. It is not only the word, have you seen any reports, that matter, it's the total context of the question, and there is simply no ministerial responsibility. The member, I think, has used... Supplementary question, Ron Mark.
To the Minister, what difference is there between his immigration policy and his government's beliefs on immigration to those being extolled by his opposition party right up until when that poll came out?
Again, no ministerial responsibility. Question number 10,